Earlier, detectives were told that this is about Barbara Knox Marsh now. It says, detectives were told that she had been in the flat from 10 p.m. on Saturday until police were called. Earlier in the evening, she was believed to have been in the Soho Club in Little Newport Street. She is the second nightclub girl to die in the last 9 days. Lovely Linda Justice, 25, died from an overdose of drugs in her Kensington flat. Linda was a friend of ex-showgirl Mrs. Janet Curtis-Bennett, QC's wife, who was also found dead at her home 4 days ago. This is why it's important, because we're going to lead on to the next bit. Because yes, it wasn't just what's that, Mr. Curtis-Bennett. Let's skip that. It wasn't just the one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, we'll go back to that. See, it wasn't just the one. I haven't brought in much about it, but Janet Curtis-Bennett also died 4 days before Janet. So in between um, the death of Barbara Knox Marsh and Linda Justice came the death of Janet Curtis-Bennett. So three, and she was a nightclub worker as well. And then her husband would later die as well. So alcoholism was the cause of Curtis-Bennett's death. A verdict that Mr. Frederick Henry Derek Curtis-Bennett, QC, died of alcoholism was recorded at Hammersmith, London inquest today. The coroner, Mr. Gavin Thurston, who is involved in a couple of these, said that Mr. Curtis-Bennett had been unwell since the death of his wife and had been treated for a nervous breakdown aggravated by consumption of alcohol. The circumstances in which he was found suggested that he must have fallen over the side of the arm of the settee onto a cushion. Sorry. I find that he died from asphyxia due to the blockage of external air passage while in a state of intoxication, added the coroner. So wait a minute. He fell onto a cushion. That's how he died. The circumstances in which he was found suggested that he must have fallen over the side of the arm of the settee onto a cushion. Bum, 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 no! And then he fell onto a cushion. Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. If he fell onto a cushion, he must be dead. Yes, he must be, because everybody know cushions are deadly. I find that he died from asphyxia due to blockage. So he's hanging over the edge of a chair. He dies of asphyxia. When Curtis-Bennett, 52, was found on Monday lying downwards on a settee in his flat in Courtfield Gardens, Earl's Court, London, a Dr. Robert Trier, another one who comes up often, Home Office pathologist, said he estimated Curtis-Bennett had been dead from 10 to 14 days. He'd been lying there for nearly 2 weeks. 16 ounces of spirits. Commenting on the alcohol content of the blood, Dr. Trier said a man, even if accustomed to taking alcohol in large quantities, would be in a state bordering on the unconscious. The coroner questioned Mr. Michael Stephen Moss, scientific officer at Metropolitan Police Laboratory in Scotland Yard, about his examination of specimens removed from the body. Mr. Moss said that the concentration of alcohol found in the body of Mr. Curtis-Bennett indicated that he had died. There was circulating in his body alcohol equivalent to 10 and 3/4 pints of beer or 16.5 fluid ounces of spirit. Mr. Thurston, how much in ounces is the average bottle of whiskey? 26 and 3/4 ounces. So what? He had drunk just over a bottle of whiskey then, half a bottle of whiskey. What? Wow. Mr. Moss said that changes in the body since death took place could be likely to lessen the concentration of alcohol. At the time of death, the concentration would have been higher. The coroner was told by Mrs. Elsie Ann Good of King's Court, Chelsea, the sister of Mr. Curtis-Bennett, that she had found her brother lying face downwards on the sofa in his sitting room. I think Mr. Good said her brother had been in a poor state of health in the death of his wife some weeks ago, since the death of his wife some weeks ago. He had been in hospital and was discharged 3 weeks ago. She had not seen him since then, but had spoken to him on the telephone. The reason why he had been in hospital was a breakdown following the death of his wife, a condition which was aggravated by his consumption of alcohol. Swaying. Miss Jeanette Scott, a housekeeper in a neighbouring block of flats in Courtfield Garden, said that on the afternoon about a fortnight ago, she found Curtis Bennett on the steps of number 52. He was standing with his back to me on the steps, swaying, and I thought he was going to fall. I said to him, "Can I help you, sir?" He said no. I asked if he realized whether he had fallen down and cut his head. He put his hands up to his face and smeared some blood away, but he said nothing and gave me his door key. I opened the door for him and I guided him along the passage. PC James had said that nobody had been found who had seen Mr. Curtis Bennett more recently than Mrs. Scott. PC James said that on the draining board of the kitchen was a bottle of whiskey in a glass, and in another room there were several empty whiskies and gin bottles. There was no trace of any notes or any tablets. Curtis Bennett was wearing shirt, trousers, braces, and shoes. That's interesting. They say what he was wearing. So that, even though not completely related, I thought I'd read that out to you because that's the husband who died a few weeks after his nightclub working wife, Janet Curtis-Bennett, Janet Farquhar Curtis-Bennett, I think her name was. I may just pause a sec. So I just had to pause up there so you can actually see. Here's Janet Curtis-Bennett, bride found dead. So this is just in between Knox, Marsh and Linda Justice. And her husband will be found dead later. So an overdose of sleeping drug, it's 3 in a row, is believed to have caused the death of Mrs. Janet Curtis-Bennett, second wife of Mr. Derek Curtis-Bennett, a famous murder trial QC, means Queen Counsel, so he represents the Queen in court. Remains of a drug were found in a glass after Mr. Curtis-Bennett returned and found his wife on a divan in their home in Courtfield Gardens, Kensington, on Wednesday night. He phoned the police. His wife was fully dressed in a red blanket, was pulled over. Cuddling beside her was her pet kitten, Tiddlywinks. Platinum blonde Miss Curtis-Bennett, shown right, was 26. Her husband, 52. They married, see picture top left, last August in London Register Office, but did not announce it until 10 days later. His first marriage was dissolved in 1949. A singer. Miss Curtis-Bennett was gay and vivacious, and before her marriage as an actress and singer, she used the name Christine Lane. She had often been to clubs, and she knew club girl Linda Justice, who took her life with sleeping tablets last Friday. Linda Justice was introduced to club life by the murderess Ruth Ellis. In Kensington, a Kensington shopkeeper said yesterday, not long ago, Linda was in here when Mrs. Curtis-Bennett came in. They knew each other because Mrs. Curtis-Bennett acknowledged Linda's greeting. But they were obviously not friends because there was no conversation apart from the greeting. Recently, Mrs. Curtis-Bennett said she was trying to get a job as a photographic model because she had so much free time. She was last seen alive on Wednesday evening by Miss Margaret Fletcher, who owns a grocery shop. Miss Fletcher said she came in to buy milk and chocolate biscuits and said she was very tired. A post-mortem was carried out yesterday by Dr. Donald Trier, same person who does the post-mortem of her husband too, the Home Office pathologist. He will read the report in the coroner on Monday. So, intriguing. Here you go. She knew Linda Justice as well, and Exactly identical deaths again. Got to be kidding me. This is another death within 2 weeks. 3 girls die, nightclub girls die in similar ways in 2 weeks. What is the chances of that? Well, in London, it seems to happen all the time, only if you live between these periods here. And of course, they report on the alcoholism of Curtis-Bennett. And we've gone through that. Oh, does it ever end? No, it never ends. No, it never ends. So we're in the Daily Herald. This is Tuesday, September the 18th, 1956. And here you go. Another nightclub girl found dead. Another London nightclub girl died yesterday. By this point, the papers are just like, oh, there's a nightclub girl. Of course they die. This is how it works. This is how normalization works. Normalization of death. And there she is, next to my face there. Another nightclub girl died yesterday. She was 23-year-old Pamela Gale, whose body was found by a neighbour in a gas-filled flat in St. George Square, Pimlico. Again, gas-filled flat. 2 letters were found near her, one addressed to her father, an Admiralty messenger. Now, you could put down that a couple of these could actually be suicides, a couple of these could accidentally be accidental deaths, a couple of these could be this, a couple of these could be that. There's so many of them. There's a string of them. Not all of them can be these things. You know, this is not. They're acting like people die all over the place, all of the time, from these different things like overdoses and gas-filled flats. And it's back then. It's still even back then. It is rare for that to happen. Yeah, it's happening to all girls who know each other, who all manage clubs in the same area. But her death was a mystery that the police were still trying to solve last night. For Pamela was known as a gay, happy girl. Knox Marsh, happy. Linda Justice, unhappy, but happy before. Esme, happy. You know, these different girls all had happiness wrapped around them, with the exception of Linda Justice, and that's only if we believe everything they say about Linda Justice. Sorry about that. But her death was a mystery the police were still trying to solve last night. For Pamela was known as gay, happy girl. A friend said she started going to clubs when she was very young, about 17. Her only interest was to get as much out of life as possible. Pleasure. She lived for pleasure. That sort of life could give. She was very happy, tall. She was 6 foot, brunette. Pamela would dance till dawn as a hostess in West End drinking clubs. Club owners and other hostesses were as puzzled as the police at her death. She was the gayest of us all, one girl said. They use gay a lot for happy. That ends in the end of the next decade. People in the late 60s no longer use gay as happy. It's amazing how it ended very quickly, and ended probably with the legalization of being gay in Britain. 3 other club girls have died mysteriously as Pamela. Esmeralda Noel-Smith, owner of Esmeralda's Barn off Knightsbridge, was found dead in a gas-filled room. Linda Justice, who was protege of Ruth Ellis, died from an overdose of sleeping tablets. Barbara Knox Marsh, the girl in black, was found dead at a flat in Baker Street. So they report her here, and they're reporting this girl who's another nightclub girl found dead, and they're already linking up. And there's more. After this, there's going to be girls who go missing from the same nightclubs. And some of them are attention seekers. Some of them are doing it on purpose. Some of them are never seen again. Some of them, establishment gives them supposed, like, a little bit of, oh, they're over here and they're staying with someone over there and they're staying with somebody over here, but there's a lot of hidden of lies within this, so there's a lot more to come from this as well. But that's Pamela Gale.